Here's an awesome old head reference. Some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses. Rage Against the Machine from 1993. And I think it's important, right, to have this perspective, especially as people of color, because white folks are just discovering now that, law enforcement, when it's unchecked and unregulated, can be abusive and corrupt and goes against those very same communities it is asked and tasked to serve and protect, right? Who watches the watchmen? And I am not, and you are not in any way, shape, or form rationalizing the increased level of intimidation and threats, by the way, against law enforcement that is coming as a direct result of the right-wing target on law enforcement agencies, right? The rise of stochastic terrorism. We've talked about this. When Donald Trump was caught red-handed with thousands of documents highly classified in Mar-a-Lago, he started promoting the deep state conspiracy. Well, guess what happened like a week later? A friggin' MAGA nut decided to attack the FBI office in Cincinnati, Ohio, and won the Darwin Award of 2022 because he was killed. I mean, and like we talked about it, but it wasn't even national news. Can you imagine if a Muslim did it and a black person did it? And, talking about this double standard, I think is important because you mentioned something I think that's very important, Danielle, is that anytime let's just stick with the white collar, right? The good, rich, white criminal, because it's good to be a white, rich criminal. The Weiselbergs, who only got 5 months, the 2008 economic crisis that just shattered my generation. I was out of law school, right? Enron, right? The fact that they willingly and knowingly cobbled up bullshit triple B loans, packaged it as shiny triple A loans, right? Had people invest in them. And who did he sell these mortgages to? Poor
Black
folks,
and brown people.
Black folks, and brown folks. No income stated loan. Go ahead. Achieve the American dream. Don't worry about it. Just buy. And you fast forward to now, you have another white criminal, Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX, cryptocurrency, Ponzi scheme. What people aren't talking about enough is that who are the greatest victims of this crypto Ponzi scheme? Black folks, brown folks, middle-class folks, and poor folks who came on the back end and we're like, all these people are pushing crypto on us. Great, we can make some money. The rich folks who invested early, Danielle, they got out. And now who gets completely screwed when this Ponzi scheme is revealed? Black folks, brown folks. And then you see people like Sam Bankman-Fried, who's free right now because I think he put $500 million worth of bill. Was it $100 million or? I'm gonna check this.
It was honestly something obscene, and I want to say that you're right that it was $500 million.
Yeah, and you got him out. All the architects of the 2008 economic crisis, they all failed up. They all got bonuses. Nothing happened to them. And now we're seeing, if you just take that whole that whole theory of it's good to be a white criminal, Hakeem Jeffries, coined it really well. He said this weaponization subcommittee is actually an insurrection protection committee, and it's a great label. It's a great term.
Oh, that's good.
The people who plotted an insurrection with Donald Trump, the majority of these 21 Republicans were willing to hijack their own party in the 118th Congress to get what they want from Kevin McCarthy, and they did. A majority of them support the big lie, promoted the coup. At least 3 of them, Gates, Scott Perry, and Boebert, the one who loves guns, are allegedly among the nearly dozen who proactively asked for pardons. They're not in jail.
Nope.
Not
even under investigation.
We don't think they're under investigation. In fact, they're crowing in the House. And then you got folks who, I want to talk really quickly about these 21 Republicans who are kind of the extreme members of the extremist party. These folks...
What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
They're more extreme. They got pissed off. This is what happened. The extremists of the Republican Party got pissed off at other extremists for not being extreme enough for the extremist base, which led to the 15 rounds of voting for Kevin McCarthy. And these people right now who control the House, because they control Kevin McCarthy, folks, they don't believe in the government. They want to abolish the income tax. They want to abolish the IRS. They want to abolish federal agencies. They want to fire federal employees. And so just the exquisite beauty of whiteness is that they are getting a 6-figure salary from us and our taxpayer dollars to represent the people in the government as they're trying to burn down the government. You get paid to be a white arsonist in America. You fail up. You fail up in government and in finance. And meanwhile, the rest of us are seen as crazy, lazy criminals and extremists, which is why it's important to have this type of conversation so you don't feel like you're crazy.
You know, when you said, when we're talking about the foreclosure crisis in the early 2000s, we have to remember that at that same time, Barack Obama becomes president. And at that same time, I'm thinking about the millions of people who lost their homes and lost their livelihood, because that is how you build wealth in America, right? You build wealth through the ability to buy property, right? That's where your money is held. And so Barack Obama comes into office, breaks history, and doesn't do anything to hold these people accountable, and instead bails out the banks.
That's right.
Who
too big to fail.
Too big to fail, who have been stealing from us in terms of all of, you know, the fine print that you don't read on how much money they're taking away from you. And this is when, if you remember, Elizabeth Warren wanted the Consumer Protection Agency, right? In order to protect people, because she knows what we know, which is that corporations, unchecked and unregulated, will take advantage of the most marginalized among us.
Right.
And what they do, these corporations, these banks, these CEOs and COOs like Donald Trump, like Alan Weisselberg, like the Wall Street guys and girls and all of these people, is that they look at these communities who have been sold this idea of the American dream, sold this idea of home ownership. And they say, oh, you suckers, we've been denying your families for generations. So now we're going to give you this opportunity, which you think is your golden ticket, in order to be able to finally be able to build some wealth and access in this country.
Right.
And then they come in and they take it right away from you, because it's all built on fraud, because they know that we are so desperate for the opportunity to have our foot in the door, right, of what America has been offering and says that it offers to those that work hard. And then those that have the ability to greenlight, gaslight.
That's right.
And that's what it is that they've done. And so we don't even have to go that far back, folks. We're only talking about 15 some odd years ago. And the pattern of recklessness that we have seen, Waj, in that time is uncanny. I think to myself, oh my God, what would have happened if all of the CEOs and the COOs and the traders on Wall Street, if they were all put in jail? Right? Would we be in the situation that we're in? Would we see the Alan Weisselbergs? Would we see, right, the FTX and these people? Or would they be terrified because they know that accountability is there? But no, instead, we want to pick up the kid under suspicion of stealing a backpack and throw them in solitary confinement. We want to shoot up the kid that says that their hands are in the air for no other reason than walking down their own fucking street. We want to kill them. But the people that are actually causing harm, stealing the American dream for millions, we do nothing. We celebrate them by giving them golden and platinum parachutes and allowing them on to go to their next venture, their next fucking grift. These get bigger over time because we do nothing to check them.
And you know, the frustrating part of it is somehow police are always around when it's black and brown folks. You know, they'll always have sting operations. They'll always like crack down. But you see the incompetence of these rich white criminals, right? And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, Alan Weisselberg and Trump and Madoff and like all these guys were openly criming, and they weren't even like sophisticated about it. They were sloppy. And you sit there and go, they just were allowed to do it, Danielle, because it's an incestuous all boys club. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it, right? How is it possible that they could fraud so openly? How is it possible that they could do income tax fraud? How is it so possible that this was so egregious and nobody did anything? Trump just got away with it, still gets away with it, right? And only after you have some intrepid prosecutor like Letitia James come in, and only when you have the scrutiny of the public, and only when he becomes president, then there's a magnifying glass. And so it makes me think, what other criming is openly happening that is not only destroying communities, and that is not only crushing people of color, but it's also corrupting our institutions. And the nexus here, especially with this week, with all of it coming to a head, and the hypocrisy of the Insurrection Protection Committee, of all people, using their power to investigate law enforcement. Oh, by the way, they also say back the blue. Did you hear that, Danielle? They also said back the blue. Until the blue comes after them.
Until the blue is the Capitol Police officers or the DC Metropolitan Police. Then it's fuck the blue.
Yeah, then it's like F them and like they're all frauds. But the incestuous network here and how it's connected is this same Republican extremist party that is in control of the House by 4 votes, thanks to freaking gerrymandering and
in
New York Democrats. Thank you, New York Democratic Party and leadership. They're also helping these very same Wall Street criminals, right? They're coming in right now. They want to get rid of the IRS. They want to make sure there's no audits. They want to make sure there's no accountability. The Republicans, as we know, the one thing that they did during the Trump's tenure, they didn't build a mother effing wall. What they did is $2 trillion tax cuts for the rich, which did not spruce up the economy. Nothing trickled down because nothing ever trickles down. Charles Barkley, I remember I was watching a basketball game, and sometimes you got to admire the guy's bluntness. He goes, "Listen, man, poor people, y'all are screwed. Nothing's trickling down. I'm going to go buy some nice watches. Good luck." He openly said it. And so it's an incestuous network in politics and in business when it comes to these rich white criminals who have each other's backs. And I'm sitting here right now, as of this recording, I feel bad for law enforcement because there are a lot of good people doing good work. But at the same time, I also know that it was the FBI itself that openly talked about white supremacy infiltrating their ranks. It's been known for years, and they've done nothing. And as you mentioned, we now know that former military and police officers make up a huge chunk of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. 2 right-wing extremist groups who helped Donald Trump overthrow the coup. And when we've seen the videos of Proud Boys, friggin' white dudes, mostly white dudes, acting belligerent AF in suburban streets, I can't even imagine black and brown folks doing that. In fact, when I see black folks and brown folks protesting peacefully, I remember... I'm
terrified.
You remember what happened in D.C., right? Friggin' cleared out tear gas. Yeah, rubber bullets. But you sit there and go, well, have the chickens not come home to roost? Is that me being too blunt and too unfair?